It was the spring of my 7th grade year when he came over here, and he said, he sat us all down, all the junior schoolers and even the high schoolers, and said our goal up here is to win a state championship. And I really did. I wasn't sure that that was a realistic goal for McCallie. I thought, well, maybe if we can make the playoffs a couple times, that'd be a good career.
We did what everybody said we weren't going to do. We won it all.
And when we see each other in the halls, we sort of, hey champ, what's going on, to each other on the team. And we just sort of nod our heads and keep walking. We know we did something special.
All the kids wanted this so bad, especially after last year and the loss that we had. And they saw how those, especially the seniors last year, felt after that happened to them. And none of them wanted that feeling again. And so in the summer and in camp and throughout the season, they worked so hard for that goal.
I remember Dustin saying in camp, he said, I'm not going to feel that feeling again, ever, no matter what.
When they woke the next morning after they woke up, they all probably figured we're going to do whatever we have to do to win this thing.
Told us that a lot of people were going to overlook us, which they did, and that we had a lot more potential than anybody really knew about with all the speed that we had coming as compared to last year.
In the end, the team who's fought the hardest, who plays the hardest, and who's worked the hardest is going to win. And there's no doubt in my mind that we did outwork them in summer lifting and all the way through the season.
They just wanted to get a contribution out of me. They said I needed to work hard in the weight room, get some size on me, get some strength, and I'd be able to play.
Well, I just think that we outworked everybody that we played. What we did in the summer was, it was pretty grueling. There were a lot of people getting sick and really making a lot of great strides this summer.
To have a senior player admired by an underclassman come over and give you a pat on the back and a word of encouragement.
I'll never forget sitting down at lunch one day, and Campbell Thomas, I saw him sitting at a table, and he invited some of the new guys from Saudi Arabia to sit down with him, and all of a sudden they became friends instantly. These guys were sitting down, there was no cliques developed. Every day at lunch there'd be a different kid sitting with another one. Not just the same guys at the same table all the time. This is really the first team that I saw a deliberate effort to become one unit.
Kepi, more than any other boy I've seen in my career at McCallie, made sure that every boy on that team, from the I hate to say worst player, but from the player who's least likely to get into the game to our very best players, made everyone feel welcome and part of that team.
And I think that was a big difference this year. People were picking each other up rather than putting each other down.
Jason Thorne, Brian Rayburn, T.J. Brooks, those guys who are getting the starters ready to play, they had as much to do with the big gold football than the person making the touchdown or making the block punt or whatever it is.
When they've had to do it, they've always been able to come through. So I really didn't think much about it. I just figured, all right, well, here we go. This is what we do. And it really didn't hit me until that 4th and 16 play. That's when I started kind of worrying a little bit.
Deep down, I knew that we'd worked so hard that I knew it was just going to work. I knew it was going to happen. And they were going to make it.
We felt like it was just meant to be, and that we were going to score no matter what.
Coach Potter came to the huddle after he called it timeout and said, Campbell, if you don't make this, you shouldn't be playing football. And we're just going to put it on your shoulders, and he made it. He was stopped, I think, at first, but then the second effort he got in there.
I asked the Lord, why was it given to me rather than, and the rest of the seniors, rather than some of the great players that have played here in the past? And I don't know why that is. I don't know if we worked hard or anything. I don't think so. Those guys worked hard, and really, one state championship it's everybody's, every McCallie football players. They deserve to have a piece of it. So though they had graduated, we did it a lot for the guys, the 95, 96 other teams that had come before us.
Well, I guess my first experience with the McCallie football was in 1973 when my dad was hired over here. He got the job, I think he came over in February, actually, of 1973. I was 9 years old at the time, and I really didn't want to come. I was a Brainerd guy through and through. He had been at Brainerd for 13 years, and I was a Brainerd Rebel, is what they were called back then. And he finally got me excited about McCallie football, or McCallie in general, when he told me, I got to remember I was 9 years old, he told me that they didn't have any girls at McCallie. And I was all fired up then. That was great. So I ended up wanting to, come on over here. Grew up from 9 years old on around McCallie football, and was fortunate enough to play for my dad from 1978 to 1980. I went to college and came back in 1986 and was teaching at GPS. Coached football here in 1986 and 1987. Won 2 district titles during that time, and it was really in the middle of a really good run for my dad for McCallie football. Then I went to Baylor, and after 6 years became head coach at Baylor, and my last 3 years at Baylor I was a head football coach. Never got to coach head-to-head against my dad. My dad got sick, and he retired the year that I got the head job at Baylor. And then in 1997, Coach Scholl and Spencer and Bill Cherry called me about, after Grady Bergner had stepped down, about coming back over. And at the time, I thought the time was right. I thought that was what I was supposed to do, and certainly it's worked out great. I've gotten better every year. When I got here, the strength coach that was here, I think he knew a lot about strength training, but he was a lot more interested in making weight training a sport in and of itself rather than trying to get athletes stronger to compete in their sports. There were hardly anybody in the weight room, and when we demanded that in the first year I was here, we did it ourselves, but it's a lot easier when you've got a guy that you can turn it over to. And I think that's what Jason Elkin's done more than anything else. I mean, he's very knowledgeable, but the kids like him, and he's very enthusiastic about what he's doing. And since Jason's been here, we've gotten stronger every year, and we've got hundreds of kids now that go through that weight room, and we've got our athletes, not just in football, but in every sport across the board, lifting. Well, the first year was a learning year. I mean, we knew it was going to be tough, but we had no idea it was going to be that tough. And we found out that the Super 7 was just a tremendously competitive league. The coaching was better. Every team had great kicking game. Every team had large football squads. There was a different type of intensity and speed and hitting that we hadn't seen before. And so we went 1-9 that first year. Won our first game and then lost 9 straight. The next year, basically, we had a lot of people quit our football team because they weren't used to being demanded of, and that first year we really got after them and demanded that they do certain things, and the guys who stayed ended up being pretty good the next year. We went 6-3 in the regular season and ended up losing in the semifinals to Brentwood Academy. The next year in '99, we felt like our team was more mature, and we had another good year. It went 7-3 that year. Won our first round playoff game against Father Ryan, and then lost to really, I think, the best team in our league since its inception, the NBA team of '99, which is very good. We lost to them 35-7 in the semifinals. In 2000, we really felt like that we had a team that could go all the way, and we liked our senior leadership. We were fully mature as a program and as a team. And they had a great run, great season. Our only loss during the regular season was to MBA, and that was on a 54-yard field goal by Ingle Martin late with seconds remaining in the game. And then in the semifinals, we lost in double overtime to Brentwood Academy. It was a great football game, and we really felt like that Brentwood Academy, MBA, and ourselves were pretty much even that year, and things just didn't fall our way.
Well, based on that senior class, I felt like we'd missed a golden opportunity to get to the state championship game. And we knew we had a good class returning, but I don't think any of us had any idea it would gel like it did, because we knew we were going to have a sophomore quarterback. We didn't have any experience in defensive secondary, but we were strong on the offensive and defensive fronts.
We knew coming into this year that we were going to have some really fine football players, and then our senior class, our linemen, were going to be very good. We knew we were going to be strong up front on both sides of the ball.
At 156 pounds, he squatted 417 pounds, which is amazing. We had 10 guys that squatted over 400 pounds on our football team this year, which is huge for a high school program.
The big question mark was in our secondary, and the big question mark was our offensive skill positions. Our skill positions were going to end up better than they were in 2000 by the end of the year, because we knew we had some guys with a great deal of speed. We thought Haddon could do a great job at split end. We thought Wayne and Clayton and Chris Johnson were all guys who could break things, which we didn't have in 2000. We didn't have that breakaway capability. The biggest question mark was at quarterback, and we knew, you know, we had a guy there that was extremely talented, but he's very young. He's going to be a sophomore, Ryan Moore. And, you know, it helped us a little bit, I think, and helped him that he started on our varsity baseball team as a freshman, because it gave him a tremendous amount of confidence in terms of competing at a very high level, and it gave our guys confidence in him. Well, I can remember last year in spring practice, after that, when the baseball players got out there, and you know, the first couple throws that he made, a lot of the guys who had not played with him in baseball, you know, there was a buzz among them, like, whoa, this guy's pretty good, and the baseball players just kind of grinned, because they had seen him do some, you know, pretty good things as a freshman baseball player. And so, yeah, it was interesting to see. And then our secondary came along very, very well, and it developed, so that by mid-season, you know, we felt like we had a very, very solid team. And we really felt like at the end of the year we were going to be good, but we felt like that we would lose some, you know, while we were learning. The Tyner game was going to be really a big game for us, because we didn't know what to expect. We knew Tyner was supposed to have one of their best teams that they had, and we just thought that, you know, we'd have to really play well in order to win. Campbell had a big night, and we really just turned to him every time we really needed something, and he had a great night. Ryan performed well. Offensive line was dominant, and defensively we played real well, especially the second half. Game turned on, you know, 3 turnovers by Tyner in the third quarter. It was real close. We had to come from behind, down at halftime, but we're real proud of our guys for playing well. We knew at that point that we'd gotten through probably our toughest game in the first 4, what we thought would be our toughest game in the first 4. And so we were feeling pretty good now about going into the Webb game and being able to start improving and hopefully, you know, be 4-0 going into the Red Bank game. It was a rainy game. We didn't play particularly well. We kind of slopped around, but I think our defense played pretty well. We got the shutout.
I guess it took that, you know, coach's tantrum in the locker room at halftime and after the game with Knox Webb, you know, to really get the team to realize that we could do some damage this year.
Yeah, halftime we got onto them a little bit, you know, because they just hadn't really played with the focus and intensity that we'd wanted them to, and so I think I'd gotten onto them before the game, that they were too loose before games, you know, and so they are really, really tight. They didn't say anything, and I don't know, that didn't fit with their personality. So after that game, I think I pretty much just let them do what they wanted to do to get ready for the game and just trusted that they knew what they had to do.
We decided that we needed a little bit more respect, and we had to deserve our coach's respect.
Notre Dame had not looked that good. You know, they Polk County, I think, had beaten them, and Baylor had really thumped them in the rain, and we thought we could handle them pretty well until, you know, when I saw them over here warming up before the game, and I saw some of those receivers, and I suddenly realized, you know, I don't know if our secondary can handle those guys, and in a shotgun, I don't know if our defensive front can get to the guy before he can throw a fade route. And so, yeah, we did not play well. It's 21-0 in the first quarter, and you know, I was making out my resume, and it was not a pretty sight, not a great feeling. But we were able to come back a little bit before halftime, and I don't remember what the score was at halftime. But came back out in the second half and played better. And it looked, I think at one point it was 21-17, looked like we were taking control. And then in the second half, they still threw 2 fade routes on us and scored twice. It was, I think we were down by 18. It was like 35-17 with about 10 minutes left to play in the game. It was just a tremendous comeback. You know, it was one of those comebacks where if you had made any mistake at all during that period of time, the comeback would not have been successful. But, you know, Ryan did really well. He's just one of those guys that has a gift for athletic competition. I mean, and he thrives. The closer the game, the more the desperate the situation, the more he thrives. You know, in the Notre Dame game, we're down in the fourth quarter by 18, and he had a smile on his face. And he was saying, "Boy, this is just great," you know, and led us to come back there, and led us to come back against Red Bank and MUS and in the state finals. So, yeah, he seems to get better the closer the game gets. I really think that fourth quarter against Notre Dame was the time when our team started to come together as a unit and also to play at a championship level.
I've never caught a ball before, and when I made the interception in Notre Dame game, I was almost crying, like running off the field. I was so excited.
I mean, we really played hard that last half against Notre Dame. We played with a sense of urgency and a sense of desperation that I think is necessary to win in this league. And I think that was the first time that we had really done that. So when you look back on it, the Notre Dame game was a real turning point. Friday was a national day of mourning, and they preferred not to play on that Friday. So they came down the next day at 1:30. As a coach, the thing that I didn't like about playing on Saturdays, we had Red Bank the next week, and they got the coaches off our routine. I remember standing on the sideline in the second half, knowing that night I was going to have to, you know, recover enough from this to start your work on Red Bank. So it was a different kind of experience. Normally, you know, I would rest a little bit Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, trade tapes with the opposing coach, and then Saturday night, you know, I would start working on our next opponent, and so that took all the rest out of the week for me.
Coach Potter was always telling us, like at the beginning of the year, he always told us that we had the talent. And a lot of the time we didn't even use it. And he said that, you know, we didn't even know what we were capable of.
Everybody knows that Riggs is going to play at a certain level. There are going to be people here to watch him, as a matter of fact. So, you know, what I want to do wanted to challenge those guys with is to say, if you want to prove that you can play on the same field as Riggs, then you need to do that thing tonight. You need to outperform Riggs tonight.
Both teams were undefeated. I think they had something like a 20-21 game win streak. We had won, I think we were something like 16-2 or 17-2 over our last 19-20 games. And so it was a great game. You know, they had Gerald Riggs, who was the top recruit in the nation. And there had been a lot of talk the previous year because everybody thought that Red Bank and McCallie were the best two teams in Chattanooga, and Red Bank had won the state. We had fallen short.
Coach Potter really helped me believe in myself. It got called back, but I mean, just to be in front of those fans and everybody just going crazy, you know, for something that I did.
So yeah, I think our kids really did have something to prove. We played in front of a huge crowd over at Red Bank, and it was something that was, I think we carried our momentum that we had gotten from that Notre Dame game, and it was to me, I think too, it was important to win that game because of what we had coming. We had Brentwood Academy, we had Baylor coming up, and we certainly wanted momentum and confidence going into those games. And really played well against Red Bank, but it was one of those games where we expected, you know, before the season that our offensive and defensive lines just really dominated Red Bank. We outgained them by 200 yards, but we made a lot of mistakes and hurt ourselves. We got ahead 6-0, and then got ahead 12-0. They scored in the second quarter. It's 12-7 at halftime.
I just remember there were like 4 guys there, and somehow they all fell down, and I just was still there, and so I just took off.
And really, in the third and fourth quarters, it looked like, you know, we could put the game away at any time, but we kept fumbling, we'd get penalties, and our inexperience really showed there in that second half of the Red Bank game.
Coach Elkin had talked about it all week. He says, you know, nobody's ever put him on his back one-on-one. And I guess it was sort of a challenge to me. And he came through the line, and I met him head-on.
And the ball was run up the middle and everything parted. And I just see Kepi just fly by me and just drilled him.
But, you know, again, after Red Bank scored to go ahead 13-12, early in I guess it was the fourth quarter. You know, we were down 2 minutes left, about 2 minutes, 13 seconds left on our own 25-yard line, and you know, it was another great comeback that Ryan led us on. A couple of great passes. We caught one to Wayne Fulham on a drag route, and had Jason Hall caught one on a wheel route, hit a trap, you know, get down there close. I guess the key play in the whole drive was a drag dig, and hit the dig to Haddon, down to about 2. And then we ran 2 plays and were able to score with just a few seconds left. And so that's at that point, my mother is on the sideline saying that if Gerald Riggs breaks it, that she's going to throw her body in front of it, and in front of him. So it was, you know, it was an intense thing. Had, you know, thousands of people there, and you know, I think that was a great win for us. Brentwood Academy, and We knew that Brentwood Academy was undefeated. They were ranked #1 at that point. Red Bank had been ranked #1 in 4A when we beat them, and then Brentwood Academy was ranked #1 in our division, and they were undefeated and had beaten some pretty good football teams. Going into the year, we didn't think Brentwood Academy would be that great a team. They lost most of their linemen, and they weren't nearly as physical and as big as they had been in the past. But they had really played well. Defensively, they were great, and of course, they had great kickers. And so we had to really get ready for a tough game. And in that particular game, we really felt like that we were a better team than they were. We were more physical than they were. We outgained them about 2-1 in that game. We were able to run the ball pretty well, although they took a lot of our option game away, at least on the perimeter. And so we felt like we did very, very well. The thing that kept that game close was their kicking game.
The guy was 5'7", and we said, Hayden, you're 6'4". 64 minus 57 equals 7, and that means 7 points. We're going to score on him if we throw that fade on him.
And so in the second quarter, we threw a long fade route to Haddon, 92 yards, and finally got a touchdown there. They kicked a field goal right before halftime, made it 7-3. But we felt pretty good at halftime that we would even do better. Second half, we really felt like we dominated the game. Defensively, we played well. Offensively, we really moved the ball up and down the field. Had a chance to win 17-3. Had a fumble going in on the goal line. They did get banged up against us. We're a very, very physical football team. And out of the front 8 against NBA the next week, they only started 5. But no, we had 5 new starters out of the front 8.
We both actually caught it at the same time, and then when we fell to the ground, we both had it in our hands, and I wrestled it away from him.
That was a big game for the secondary, though. It was kind of a breakout game for Clayton Bechtel at corner. I think we ended up picking off 5 or 6 passes that game.
And even though we'd outplayed them all the whole game, just things that happened, penalties and turnovers and things that kept the game closer than it should have been. And their receiver runs what we call a post corner, and it looked like he was wide open. And Clayton came out of nowhere and intercepted the pass right in the corner of the end zone.
Clayton Bechtel made a great interception in the end zone, and we ended up winning 10-3. So for a second week in a row, we knocked off the #1 team, and we started to get a lot of attention ourselves at that point.
It was a early morning when I was up in Washington, and there was a Republican conference meeting, and Dad and I got up probably about 6:30, and we went over there, and the president gave a little speech before the Labor Day break, and afterward I went up and talked to him. He asked me where I went to school. It was about the 3rd time I've met him since he's been in office, and I said I go to McCallie, and he paused for a moment, kind of looked at me, and he said, "I heard Baylor was going to stomp y'all in football this fall." And my dad, kind of amazed as I was, I was a little scared to say something in response to the president, maybe in fear that the Secret Service would jump me. So I kind of stayed quiet, thinking that the season would tell that story.
Well, I hope he's better dealing with the Taliban than he is, dealing making predictions on our game. But it was a game, and again, Baylor had so much hype going into the year. Early in the year, the people were saying that's the best team in Chattanooga history, and certainly they had a lot of fast running backs. They had 4 guys in the backfield that on any play could break the play for a long game. They had experienced some difficulty, though. They put a lot of their eggs into the NBA basket, and when NBA beat them in week 3, I think that took a lot of wind out of their sails. And And then they had been beaten, really an upset by Father Ryan the week before they played us. And so they had to be, their confidence level was probably pretty low. It had to be. We were undefeated, just having beaten Brentwood Academy and Red Bank. And we were, we were just really ready to play and felt like that, even though people have been predicting from back in January and February that was Baylor's year, that we were going to show them different. And in that rivalry is such that usually if one team has been dominant in the rivalry, it's very difficult for the other team to win unless they're significantly better.
The block a punt is a momentum changer regardless of what the score is, and that just signified that we were not going to let Baylor in the door at all, not get one foot in the door. And we shut the door on them early, and we kept applying the pressure.
They did come back and score, but then I think the key element in the game was after they had scored to make it 17-7. We throw a long pass to Clayton Bechtel, get down and score again, make it 24-7. And then Kepi blocks a punt, makes it 30-7, the game's over, basically at halftime, and we're playing out the string in the second half. And, so that's, I got to say this, that's the fourth in a row against Baylor. And the last four scores have been 35-3, 37-7, 26-7, and 44-14. So they, then that is unprecedented in Baylor McCallie history. McCallie had a series of 6 wins in a row in the 80s, but all of those wins, or most of them, were very tight ball games, very competitive ball games. And they haven't come within 3 touchdowns of us since 1997. So, I think that's where we want to be. We want to keep it right there. The people were asking me if we had a game that night, the night we played MUS. And the school is so deflated after the Baylor game.
It was a tough game for us. They came along at the right time for us. We just played Red Bank, Brentwood Academy, and Baylor, and they had a good plan for us that we didn't expect, and it became a much more difficult game than we thought it would be.
And so it's going to be tough, and you try to counteract that, but it's almost just physically impossible to get yourself ready to play again. And we weren't ready to play, and MUS really took it to us, and our kids knew after the MUS game that we were fortunate to get out of that with a victory.
We had 5 receivers, quarterback was in a shotgun formation, and then they were not huddling. So that completely caught us by surprise, because now we couldn't call any of our defensive stunts to get pressure on the quarterback. So what happened was their offensive coordinator knew exactly what defense we were going to be in and took advantage of us, cost us 1 touchdown. That taught me a lesson. We'll never, ever be caught short again like that. We'll be prepared for no huddle against anybody. But it did help them, and then they spent the whole game in that formation and really did a good job on us, and had 1 receiver who's already signed with Arkansas who gave us a fit all night. But again, when you face a passing team like that, they're going to complete some passes. There's no way around it. The key is to get enough pressure on the quarterback and have enough turnovers to offset their drives, and that's what we did. We got them in enough 3rd and long situations to stop them, and then we intercepted 3 balls against him, which was the key to the game.
It's almost impossible to play at your optimum level every week. And so you're going to have to win some games where you're not at that level. And you've got to get a little bit fortunate, but you got to make the plays when you get the opportunity to. And we did that. We did what we had to do when we were not at our best. And it was, again, a last minute drive to win the game. The most critical play on it was a 4th and 3. We called a seam route, and Clayton made a great catch on it. Ryan made a good throw, and that kept the drive alive. We hit an off-tackle play down inside the 10. And then got it down to the 1 on second down. And ran 2 straight off-tackle plays to Campbell and got stuffed both times. So we had 4th and 1, down by 4. We couldn't kick a field goal with I don't know how many seconds we had left, probably less than 30. I looked over at the downs marker, and it was less than a yard. It was like a half a yard, and I thought, behind our offensive line, if Campbell can't get this, then we don't deserve to be undefeated anyway. So
if we can't score on 4th and 1 with 30 seconds left, then we're no count anyways. So we just said we're going to run right at them, and we did so.
We blocked everybody we could, but they sent all 11. So he was met in the hole by one of their linebackers. And, it was a pretty good lick too, but he couldn't stop Campbell. He was too determined to get in there, and because at that point the season rested on making that play or not. That game was, to me, even counting the championship game, was the hardest struggle we had all year by far.
That was our week, for fall break, and so we try to play an away game that day, and that's another game that's always difficult for us because, the schools, again, is not really paying attention to football much. They're out on fall break, and we're still working and going. But we went to Lincoln County against a team that, frankly, wasn't that great. They had great tradition, certainly had a great stadium, and Fayetteville is a city that, kind of revolves around football. But we were able to go out there and play very well and get way ahead of them and do our thing there. And then had to come back home and get ready for NBA. Yeah, it really shocked us. In fact, we had to scrounge around and get that tape from somebody because, we were really curious about how that happened because we thought it would be a very close game and that Brentwood probably would win it. And then when we heard it was 17-0 and the NBA had dominated them, it worried us about NBA for a while. But, in our league, too, it's all about matchups. One team may match up very well personnel-wise against another team and not so well against another. And I think that was true against Brentwood. It rained really hard that game. Brentwood couldn't throw it. And NBA was very strong and physical up front and ran downhill vertical at Brentwood. And, I think they just dominated the game. NBA has really been the class of our conference for the last 3 years, and there were times when we were playing them, for instance in '99, where you almost felt helpless as a coach, because everything you did probably wasn't going to work. I mean, they were just a very talented football team, and so you sort of had to overcome that, and because these guys are not the same guys that played 2 years ago or last year, and we felt like that our matchup was very good with them. We didn't feel like they were very good in the secondary, and that's where we're really going to put pressure on people with the option and the passing game. That we knew that up front they were very strong, and we have a lot of respect for Coach Bauer's ability to get them in the right play call and things like that. But we played just an excellent football game. I thought defensively we made all the adjustments that we had to. They would get a first down or two, but our kicking game was better than theirs, so they never got really good field position. And offensively, we just played great. It's probably the best offensive game we had all year because I think we scored just about on every possession early in the game and threw great passes. Haddon had a great game. Ryan had a great game. We got the ball pitched to Wayne and Clayton. I mean, it was really a very good game, and again, it is a great matchup for us because we could really put pressure on a secondary for NBA that was young and not as athletic as what they had in the past.
He refuses
to let them do anything less than play hard. He's like a conductor of an orchestra, and he has this expectation that there's one note that's not quite there, just the least bit sour. He's on that, and he's relentless. And the phrase he uses over and over again all year is "run it again." And we'll do this thing until we get it right. And the boys know it. Some that I've worked with would say, well, that's about as good as we're going to get. He never does that.
It was the end of a Thursday practice, and we had just gone through the script, and I'd run one play wrong. And he just took that one play so seriously, completely stopped the practice and just singled me out and yelled at me. Made sure I was going to run the play right.
Kind of felt like that we let down a little bit at that point defensively, and I didn't want them to do that. I didn't want to have any inkling at all that NBA could come back.
On the internet, they reported that score as 34-6. They didn't include those 2 touchdowns they scored as official points. I thought that was pretty classy of them.
We had to wait a week for the draw, and that was a tough week. It was good and bad. It was good in the fact that we got healed up a little bit, but it was bad in the fact that we had to wait around a week, not knowing who we were going to play. I think that still hurt us a little bit. I think even hurt us in the state championship game because our timing was not ever as good again after that off week as it was in that NBA and Lincoln County game, especially in our passing game. Really felt like that NBA would bounce back and beat Christian Brothers, but Christian Brothers beat them 14-0, and in a way, we thought we could beat Christian Brothers certainly, but that was probably not a real good matchup for us because nobody had ever had a great running back like Mosby that just took it straight downhill at us, and we were a little bit apprehensive about that. In the Christian Brothers game, I think that we're a little tight, to be honest with you. At first, we'd waited 2 weeks to play, and I think we played a little tentatively, especially early, and we were on our heels. And you got to give Christian Brothers credit. They took it to us, had a fine running back in Justin Mosby, and really played well early. And it was had some scary moments there. Got down by 10-0, and it looked easy for Christian Brothers. It wasn't, a thing where they had to really work on it. But thankfully, we were able to really move the ball offensively. They didn't stop us much during the course of the night, and so that took some pressure off our defense, and the defense played better. They only scored 3 more points after the first quarter, and so we were able to win 31-13. It was 17-13 at halftime, and I think really the turning point was the first play of the third quarter. We called them in a blitz and threw a long pass to Jason Hall, who outran the secondary for Christian Brothers to score. I think that really didn't ice the game, but that gave us some breathing room that put us up by 11. And then late in the fourth quarter, we were able to get another one to extend it a little bit.
Last year, I was a scout team tailback going against the starters, linebackers, and defensive line, so I took my pounding last year. When I get hit this year, it wasn't anything compared to getting hit last year. I mean, they just crushed me every play, and Potter would laugh and say he was paying me back for my dad. My dad played nose guard, I think, against when Potter was the scout team quarterback, so he tackled Potter a lot, and I guess Potter liked it kind of as a payback. He laughed a lot.
McCallie had never been there before. We had been there at the semifinals, several times, but had never gotten to the Clinic Bowl. And your concern there is how's all the hoopla going to affect your team, and how's it going to affect me and the other coaches and things like that. And it was difficult. Had to go travel on Monday to Nashville for a press conference in which they all talked, all the reporters there from Nashville, they all talked to Brentwood Academy, and Campbell and Jed and I just kind of sat over there by ourselves thinking, why did we come? But we thought our team was really well prepared. We had a great week of practice. We were really focused. Our biggest concern going into the game was their kicking game, find somebody to catch punts without, fumbling the ball. We thought that defensively we could do pretty well against them, and we've always struggled against Brentwood Academy's defense. So you get a really good defensive coordinator who does a good job, and so we're trying to find a way to get to 17, 21 points. We got a lot of respect for Brentwood Academy and their coaching staff. Before the game, one of the Tito's Tablet officials was telling us, that we wouldn't play very well in the first half. And then we asked why. Well, and he said, first time that you're in a clinic bowl is you kids don't really know how to handle it quite right. So you'll be the rare team if you play well. And we said, oh no, our kids are like that. That's not going to let them bother. But we really did not play well in the first half. Didn't start out well, playing well on defense. Had a good first drive on us. I knew we were in trouble when O'Cappy, who's the guy we had selected, to be the punt catcher, lets the first punt hit and gets down to the one. And offensively, we just did not execute. We had things there offensively in the first half, but there'd be a breakdown here, a breakdown there, and we'd get a penalty. We fumbled one time, and so it was not. We weren't playing, it was a struggle, and we were fortunate actually to go into halftime only down 10-0. It could have been a lot worse than that. halftime, I was not that optimistic, really. Privately, I was thinking, well, I guess you have to get to the Clinic Bowl one time before you feel comfortable enough to win it. And but offensively, I think what turned it around, Coach Newman and Coach Kemp said, look, quit throwing the ball so much. We can block them, just run the ball and stay with it. And so that was our plan coming back out, and we told the team, look, you can't play any worse than you did the first half, and so you might as well just relax and enjoy it now. I mean, you're lucky you're only down 10. That's the good part is you can't play any worse and you're down 10 points. So, if we get one touchdown, we're back in it.
There's the state football championship, baby. We're in the Clinic Bowl.
Let's go now. Let's go.
Inside out. And leave them on the field. Leave them on the field.
Cross the line. Big play.
Who's up top? Who's up top?
Johnson and Griffin lead for Brentwood Academy.
During halftime, they made the adjustment, told me when the guy runs out there to run out with him, and, they were right.
They got a nice little drive going the first time they had the ball the second half. And we stopped them on about their 35, and they tried one of their long field goals and missed it. I think that was key. If they'd gone up 13-0, it'd been tough. But anyway, we took the ball at that point, 80 yards, and great drive, and never forget Coach Newman on the headphones. Every time we ran 44-star block, it's a play that Ryan's running. He would just go crazy. He was loving it. He'd run it again, all that kind of thing. And really, the guy who had the key block on that was Chris Bell. Because they were pinching everybody inside, and Chris he was a guard pulling. He had to read that and get up on the linebacker, and he did it time and time again. I think we ran that play 9 times the second half, and they never really stopped it one time. Pitched it back to Wayne, going around the other way, and Haddon made a great stalk block. Eamon Thornton made a great peel block, a seal block on the linebacker, and Wayne's got so much speed, we're able to get it in for about 25 yards out. Coach Kemp's the one that suggested that. It was 3rd and 2. It was the perfect time to call that play. And so that put it 10-7. It's anybody's ball game at that point. And you really feel the momentum swinging towards McCallie.
Knew where I had to get to and got to that guy and ended up letting Wayne score a touchdown. It was nice. That's my favorite play by far.
We stopped them, got the play, get the ball back, really feel like we're going to go get them again. We get a 3rd and 2, we call an off-tackle play. Coach Pittman from Brentwood Academy, sometimes I think he's inside my head. He calls a stunt he hadn't done all night and stops us, and so we had to punt, still feeling pretty good about it because we felt like that, we get the ball back with plenty of time. We felt like we were controlling the game. So we punted to them and stopped them again. And then early in the 4th quarter is what it was then at that point. And we'd been trying to put pressure on their punter the whole game, putting Wayne and Clayton out there, fastest guys, and tried to just let him, at least if you can't block it, at least let him think about it. Coach Kemp had engineered all that. And it really paid dividends because the snap was pretty good, but it had the punter right in the hands. But I think the punter kind of was sneaking a peek a little bit at Clayton and Wayne. Dropped the ball, Jed Roebuck picks it up and scores. It's 14-10. At that point, I really felt like, okay, we're going to win this thing, 21-10. We'll get another touchdown on offense. They hadn't done anything defensively on us, and so we were feeling really good, with about 10, 11 minutes left in the game.
Coach Kemp been telling me all week, man, special teams going to win this game, special teams going to win this game, and he was right, and, it was a great feeling.
he told me after the game, I made a great personnel change on that punt return team. But the punts was so high, and he had to run for that one. Probably done better just let that one hit. But anyway, he fumbled a punt, and it was a muff, so they couldn't advance it. And we were able to stop them. They kicked the field goal, made it 14-13. Still feeling pretty good. We tried to run a sweep, and we'd run to Wayne, but they were ready for it and hit us for no gain. We had to punt. Still feel good about it because they got the ball now on the 10-yard line. They hadn't gotten anything on our defense the whole second half. Second play, they dropped back, and we're in a three-man rush and trying to cover a man all over the field with two deep. And we just kind of got lulled to sleep a little bit in the secondary, and the quarterback connected with Fuson, number 12, and for a long gain down to our 35. Well, I mean, that's in the field goal range, so that was really, really discouraging at that point. Our defense held, but they were able to kick a field goal with 3:38 left. So we knew we were going to get the ball on the 20, and we had 3 timeouts left. There wasn't any reason to rush or anything like that. So the first play we called a search wheel. And then we decided to make sure we get a first down. We ran 2 44-star blocks, got a first down up to about the 34. Then we ran a screen pass to Jason that we'd worked on for about 2 weeks straight and never had run yet. But gained 17 on that. They called Jed for holding, which was not holding, but they called it on us. So that set us back to about 1st and 13. Next play, we tried to throw a back post to Haddon, and got a pass interference call on that. So that put us up past the 40. We tried to throw a slant, incomplete pass. We tried to throw a corner route to Clayton Bechtel, and they made a great defensive play on that play, about killed old Clayton. So we had 3rd and 10. So that was a real critical play. We were able to complete the search route up to Brentwood Academy's 44. That was to Trey Clark. Ryan threw a great ball. Trey made a great catch on it, had great protection on it. We got up on the line. We were able to get a play in quickly without having to use a timeout. We ran a trap, which we always like to run in a 2-minute drill because, the linebackers are deep, the linemen are rushing hard, so you trap them. And so we were able to pop that through there for about a 12-yard gain. Campbell got it down to about the 32. So it's 1st and 10 there with, I think, at that point, about 1:50 left. Tried to call 44-star block. I had wrong personnel in the game. We didn't have Jason, so we got hit for no gain, had to call timeout there. And at this point, what we were really thinking is that, Trey's Myers' effective range is about the 25-yard line. So we're trying to gain, somewhere around 5 to 10 yards to try to get in field goal range. So the next play we called was a sweep to Wayne. They had to work consistently in the second half. And that didn't work. Not only did it not work, but we got a holding call. And so that took us out of field goal range. If we weren't even in it at that point, but that got much more difficult. So we ended up having a 2nd and 20. And we tried another search route. I almost got picked off, but luckily it didn't. That gave us a 3rd and 20. We tried a drag route to Jason Hall. And if we had gotten the ball to him a little bit sooner, he might have been able to make a move and gain some yardage. We weren't really trying to pick up the whole 20 yards at that point. We were trying to get it where it would be like 4th and 5, 4th and 6 to give us some options. And he got hit, I think, for a 4-yard gain, so we had 4th and 16. In the first half, we had tried to throw a post corner, and the corner had stayed way outside, and there was an incomplete pass. So we figured they'd be in the same thing, that the corner and the safety would be in deep thirds, dropping deep. And we knew that anything underneath, like a search route or a drag, was not going to get it. And if you try to throw a deep route, then they would, cover it. So really, you hadn't had that run route before, but called skinny post, because it's like a deep slant that would give us enough yardage for the first down, but it was not so deep that the safety corner would break it up.
I went out there with maybe 30 seconds left in the timeout, and Coach came up with the skinny post route to get me in between the corner and the safety. So I didn't even really have time to think about the implications. I just had to run out and line up and run the.
We ran a great route, and I haven't run it before, and we just told Ryan to throw it as hard as you can.
And I felt the ball go off straight, and I was like, yeah, that's in, definitely.
This guy is the best quarterback ever.
I don't know about that. Look at my percentage. But
hard work. We threw everything into that. And so that drive was a whole team effort. We all came together. Those on the sideline cheered with everything they had, and those on the field played with everything they had.